Hey guys, subscribe for daily content, and if you're shopping for gear, make sure you check out the description for the newest items at some of the very best online retailers. There's also links for some of the items that I personally recommend. Thanks!
What's going on YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got another interesting knife review / knife overview to share with you guys. This is the Spyderco Polestar. A very interesting option for people looking to get into Spyderco without breaking the bank. This is just barely what I consider to be a budget knife on this channel. We'll go over that. This will be linked right down below, and it's in kind of a small family of knives, so I'll link the smaller version of it, and if there's a larger version, I'll link that as well. Thank you so much to Instagram at ari.m.weinstein. For sending this in for review. It's because of people like him that I'm able to bring you guys daily knife content, so please give him a follow. It's also because of my generous patrons. Thank you so much for supporting me. There's a link for Patreon right down below. And please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. All right, let's go ahead and get a measurement of this guy. Overall length of the Polestar is coming in just shy of 8 inches. We're looking at about 7.8 inches overall. Blade length definitely over 3 inches. We're looking at maybe 3.3. And then the cutting edge is exactly 3 1/4 on the dot. All right, let's go ahead and do some size comparisons up against the Ontario Rat Model 1 and its little brother, the Rat Model 2. You can see it's kind of right in between. And there we go. How about like that? Right in between. How about up against the Spyderco PM2 and Para 3? Some great size comparisons for Spyderco fans, for sure. Absolutely right in between these three. Absolutely. I'd say it's perfect, almost a perfect line down here for the blades. And last but not least, I don't even know why I closed those. I probably should just move them out of the way. The Ritter Hogue, the Benchmade Griptilian, or in this case the Ritter Hogue, and the Mini Griptilian, definitely in between as well. Though I'll point out, I believe the cutting edge is almost identical. It's just a hair shorter than on the Ritter Hogue, which is nice because Spyderco does the weird ratios thing usually, so it's nice to see a little bit better ratios, something like this. How about carry profile? So thickness up against the Spyderco Para 3. You can see here, not a thick knife. It's pretty much exactly the same as the Para 3, maybe just a hair thinner. Length and height up against the PM2 and Para 3. It does have that rise, you know, to accommodate for the opening hole. Height-wise, though, it's pretty close. Just a hair shorter than the PM2 and Para 3, so that is present. The tallness of the knife is going to be present in the pocket. Let's take a look at the inside. You can absolutely get my flashlight down in the description. It's underneath my tools in the Amazon store section. Yeah, the liners are milled out for weight reduction, which is nice. How about blade stock thickness? I'm gonna guess that's probably 125 thousandths, 125 to 135. Maybe thinner, who knows? 120, roughly 120,000. So we're looking at G10, we're looking at stainless steel liners that have been milled out, and we're looking at CTS Bd1 steel with a thickness of 120 thousandths. I believe this is going to be, I think I actually saw the weight. I think they said it was 3.9 ounces. Yeah, okay, 3.81 ounces. Pretty good. Honestly, pretty good. Spyderco has some other offerings in this less expensive department where the ratios are a bit wonky. 3.81 ounces is not a perfect one-to-one when it comes to, you know, usable cutting edge or blade length to weight ratio. But you know, for me, that's lighter than I normally carry, and it's a little bit smaller than I normally carry, and so what that tells me is that that's probably going to be pretty good for the vast majority of people. This is a nice size knife. Really the only issue I think some people might have with it, unless you're, you know, 3.81 ounces is just too heavy for me, is going to be the height of it. If you carry nothing else in your knife pocket besides your knife, then you're good. It's not going to be a big deal. Probably not a good knife for athletic shorts, things like that. All right, so the Spyderco Polestar, like I said, is more of an entry-level Spyderco, and I think it's important to talk about these because if you take one step into the knife world and people are just like, you're just barely trying to come in the back door, and people are like, "Have you heard about Spyderco?" Like, that's immediate. That's what happens, right? And you're like, "Oh, all right, geez, I'll check them out." Jeez Louise, these things are weird looking, half pair of scissors looking, dead bird looking, kind of crazy things, right? Yeah. $200, $150, oh my gosh, that's a lot of money to roll the dice on something that usually strikes people as visually unpleasant right off the bat, right? I'm going off of my experience. Stuff like this is nice. You know, they have the Tenacious family and the Emphasis family or whatever, you know. And then this Spyderco Polestar, I think is a little less offensive as a Spyderco, like visually for newer people. I mean, to people who have been around for a while, you know, no big deal. Or they may have gotten over like how they may, you guys may be watching this going, I like how Spyderco knives look now, you know. To me, they're still ugly. I'm like, I get them now. So my brain kind of sees past that. But it's nice because it's much less expensive. And in this case, we have a really good design. In fact, a lot of things here make me like this a lot more than some of the other budget Spyderco families that are out there. First off, the G10 is very interesting. It's kind of, have like a sort of layer of denim on top of the natural or translucent, and it gives it this, I don't know, it gives it a kind of worn blue jeans look, and I kind of dig it. It looks pretty cool. Edges are all nicely knocked down. Seating of the hardware is good. Fit and finish is good. We do have full stainless steel liners that are lipped. They are not countersunk, but it's not adding a lot of excess weight to the design, so okay. We have a nice large open area to engage this liner. And that's nice because the liner has some jimping on it and it's pretty much a fairly sharp 90-degree angle, but because we're so deep in here, it's really easy to just disengage it without really hurting your thumb much, right? This guy's running on, as far as I know, phosphor bronze. Yeah, you can kind of see it in there. Sometimes they sneak a nylon washer in there, and I'll admit it to you guys, I did not take this apart to take a look, but in my light, if I can I get the light to show? No, it's not good. Just take my word for it. It looks like phosphor bronze, and it feels like phosphor bronze. The action isn't like, oh my gosh, it's so smooth, right? It feels like a Chinese Spyderco running on phosphor bronze. And that's fine, because this is likely going to be used as a tool. It's smooth enough where you can easily do the reverse flick, you can easily do the thumb flick, right? You can easily do the Spidey drop thing, everything that, you know, Spyderco fans always rant and rave about. It's very, very easy to manipulate. Between the ease of access to the lock bar, the action being all right, you know, considering what it is, and the incredible access you have to the thumb hole here, this is very easy to manipulate. It's exactly what I want from a Spyderco knife, and it's the kind of thing that makes me want to recommend something to a new person, right? Sometimes Spyderco knives, they have a really cool design, and it's like, hey, the thing that makes Spyderco interesting is that opening hole, and there's not a lot of access to it, and it kind of, you know, so I'm like, eh. Now this one's good. I like it. I like this a lot. On top of that, I really like the ergonomic lines on this guy. The pocket clip is a typical Spyderco pocket clip. It's a variant of it that has the lanyard hole right in the middle of it, which is okay. You know, the Shaman does that too. So you can feel the clip a little bit, but outside of that, honestly, the lines here are pretty good. There's a definite spot where you know, it's sort of like the barrier, like, hey, don't put your fingers past this point. And while the scales are, you know, they're not contoured or anything, they are comfortable. It's pretty good, honestly. This is the knife that I could absolutely take out, hold on to for long periods of time without gloves and work with. You've got a full 4-finger position, a little bit of extra real estate so you can move around a little bit. In this area right here, while it's, you know, it's about the right size for 1 finger, even if you kind of bypass it and put your fingers around it, it's really not that big of a deal. I mean, it's comfortable. It's all right. Like I said, the one thing is just the pocket clip. Honestly, I'm starting to get to the point where I think shorter pocket clips with a much more shallow bill are just the remedy for a lot of ergonomic, I'm not going to say disasters, just ergonomic unpleasantness. So the pocket clip is what it is, but it functions, right? So it's kind of it's a teeter-totter. But yeah, this feels good. I like it. The blade is a typical Spyderco leaf-shaped blade, which is great. At 120 thousandths in fully flat ground, you do come down to a nice thin edge. The tip is definitely going to be pokey, but it's also going to be delicate. So this isn't the type of knife that you want to go, you know, what do I usually say? I've got like 3 examples. Prying the engine out of a 1-ton pickup, right? Or whatever people do where they're like, oh, hard use test my knife. Ain't nothing getting past the tip on my knife. Okay, that's weird that you do that stuff with your knife. But yeah, so use it like a knife and you should be okay. Steel, Cts Bd1, not Bd1 and Cts Bd1. This is mediocre steel, right? You're looking at edge retention similar to VG10. There's going to be slight variations. It is a stainless steel. Not super duper tough, right? It should be okay, reasonably easy to sharpen. It's definitely better. In my opinion, the composition has better attributes all the way around than a steel like ATR 13 MOV, which is what we usually see from Spyderco's Chinese line. So I'll take it. It's not my favorite thing in the whole world, especially in contrast with the price, but I'll take it over ATR 13 MOV. And again, you know, considering the design, right, there's some other elements here. You get a lot of usable blade, no sharpening choil though. The blade looks all right. You know, Spyderco's, the belt satin finish from the Chinese line is just kind of, it's pretty lackluster, right? This isn't the same type of satin finish that you're going to get on a higher end knife, but it's, you know, fine. Okay, whatever. Corners, no, they're actually fairly knocked down. It's all right. You got a nice ramp right here with some jimping on it, so it's you're able to lock in, like if you're choking up, right behind the blade. And that's another nice thing. You can get right behind the blade for those power cuts into thick cardboard. Interesting that this is a Sal Glesser design. Sal Glesser himself of Spyderco. You guys know the company is now run by his son, Eric Glesser. So, yeah, this kind of looks, you know, other famous Sal Glesser designs, of course, the Spyderco PM2 and the Spyderco Para 3, as we showed earlier. So you can see kind of his, you know, his personality coming through in this stuff. Heavy attention to ergonomic lines and where your hands are actually going to go. So that's nice. Moving on here, we've got, oh, we didn't do the hardware check. My goodness, I knew I was forgetting something. You can find my tools right down in the description, again, in the Amazon store that lists all of the items that I actually use for maintenance on this channel. So feel free to check these out. These are very inexpensive and very recommendable. Okay, so the pivot is a T8, and guess what? The body screws are also a T8. So that's great. You got some T6 on the pocket clip, but yeah, everything it looks to be T8 otherwise. So it should be easy to take apart, right? Probably not, because we do have that lanyard barrel that's going to be lipped over the scales, so you're going to have to work around that, right? You just kind of scissor them apart, and you got to kind of wiggle them up, and you can use you can take a few old credit cards, tape them together, and make kind of a plastic pry bar, and you can kind of, you know, loosen the things up, or you can do 4, whatever you want. That's a good way to do that without messing up the steel liners with like a flathead screwdriver or something, which is what most people use. I say most people because I've done that in the past. So yeah, you can do that. I mean, getting around that lanyard barrel is kind of a pain, but if you're just wanting to do a little bit of maintenance on the inside of the pivot, you can take the screws out and just sort of scissor the frame apart, and you'll be fine. You don't have to take it, unless you're going to change out the scales. You really don't need to take it completely apart. This side of the knife is much the same as the front. You'll notice that multi-directional and ambidextrous clip positions, so tip up, tip down, left or right-handed carry, even though it is a right-handed liner lock. I'll tell you that I found liner locks typically easy to manipulate with my left hand, but because of the angle of this guy, if you turn it and do this, lay it like this, and then sort of pull the blade towards yourself, which isn't super safe, it's okay. For left-handed people, that liner lock's not super comfortable to manipulate. For right-handed people, no problem because of the way that you approach it, but because it's cut sharp at 90 degrees, and we've got some jimping right here, there's no bowl cut out to make that a little easier on your hands. You'll get used to it, but it's not the most comfortable thing in the world for left-handed people. Centering on this guy, surprisingly, well, here's the thing. It's mushy because we're looking at phosphor bronze washer, so I can get it fairly close, right? Fairly close to centered if I just kind of push on it a little bit. As is the case with all knives, especially ones with simple constructions like this, I probably can mess with the pivot and the body screws and get it perfectly centered. At this point, it's kind of safe to assume if you're paying for a Chinese Spyderco, you're just not going to get a centered blade. That's like every single one that I've ever looked at. They're like that, and I always have to recenter them. but fine, right? It's kind of frustrating. It's like, hey, Spyderco, Civivi, CGRB, QSP, all these budget companies are knocking it out of the park with fit and finish. What's going on here? Let's get that. Come on. People don't want to have to mess with the no matter what, after you get your knife, you start using it, you start flipping it, right? It's going to come off center eventually. But I'd like it to come out of the box centered. Everything else, though, looks pretty good, aside from the kind of lackluster belt satin finish. So, the detent feels good, though. The detent is nice and strong. There's no way that you're going to be flipping this thing out or launching it while you're not wanting to launch it, right? So, again, little nitpicks. The position of the clip is meh. The steel is better than HCR 13 MOV, but right? Belt satin finish kind of ugly. Not super fun to manipulate if you're left-handed. And blade center. Did I say blade centering? Blade centering kind of sucks. So, what do they want for this? $73. This design, I think, is the best entry-level Spyderco design that I have handled to date. I actually really like the design. This is a wonderful tool. And Cts Bd1 is passable, right? It's kind of like when I say I don't want to see VG10 above the $80 mark, and I'm still a little bit at 70 bucks. Honestly, I think this knife should be between 50 and 60 bucks. It's $73 though. So it's like I always say, everything could be $15 to $20 less and make me happier, but that's a bigger percentage of the total cost of this knife considering, you know, we're already in budget territory. So, let me be careful about how I say this. This is a recommendable knife. That obviously Spyderco needs to up their game in, you know, when in these less expensive, like in their budget line. They definitely need to up their game. I really wish if they're going to charge this much money for their knives, number one, come on, let's get the fit and finish stuff updated. Like this is, it's 2021, right? It's not 2013 when this type of stuff would have been passable, right? It's 2021. So that needs to be updated. But if you're going to charge this much, outside of that, we need more of a 154 cm steel in this territory, right? But this is still really good for people looking to get into Spyderco. I've said this a lot lately because I've handled some better models. For people looking to get into Spyderco without dropping 150 bucks on something from their American or their Taiwanese line, right? This is a really good option. The design is great. The balance is great. Weight and everything. The blade's great. This is a fantastic design. Much, much better than the other designs that I've handled in this territory. I like this a lot. And, you know, if it was 8CR, I'd be like, God dang it, it's another, you know, the Cts Bd1's okay. It's passable. So, I think it's a little bit overpriced. I don't think it's, oh my gosh, the world is ending overpriced as you go down. Now we're in the 17-minute mark. Go down to my comment section. You'll see people just, you know, breaking down, going down on their knees going, why? My life is over. It's $73 and it should be $57, right? Nah, it's not that dramatic. This is a recommendable knife for people looking to get into Spyderco, right? And honestly, I mean, for anybody, I think this is a great design. I just think that the big emphasis is on, they have a budget model called the Emphasis. The big emphasis here is people, you know, entry-level Spyderco. If you're just looking for a good design, there's a lot of competition out there at this price point. And frankly, for less money, there's you know, there's really, really heavy competition. But this is still a recommendable knife. I like it. I just wish it was less expensive. If this was 55 bucks, I'd be like, wow, cool, good job. All right. You know, I'm happy with that. But 73 is just, it's just feels a little bit high. So it's still going to go in my recommended knives playlist and it's going to go in my Spyderco knives playlist, but it's mainly due to the fact that Spyderco offers very little in this territory and this is the best I've seen yet. So, you know, take what I'm saying with a grain of salt. I think that's going to be pretty much it today, guys. Thanks again to the gentleman who sent this in for review. Please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on that Metal Complex logo right there and subscribe because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.